viewing videos and content, it'll be there for you.
Live.
All right, so welcome to this week's class. It's the second of a series of classes that will go through April. We take a little break in May, just because the facility will not handle the volume of customer gardeners and then a class. Parking lot, there's just not enough parking. And so we take a little break and we'll be back at it middle of June. That's kind of the sequence. And every week, it's an appropriate class for that time of year. So right now, it's hard to plant. I've got 4 inches of snow on my ground. It's hard to get in there. Now, it'll melt pretty quick. So all the sidewalks have already melted. My north side of my yard is pretty cold, so it doesn't thaw very easily. The south side, it's already thawed. So it just depends on where you're at. This class, we want to cover landscape design and some of the basic facts. So we won't go deep into it, but we got to cover zones. So you know where you're at. And then we got to cover north side, east, west. That makes more difference in your zones. And then we'll cover some basic designs. And so I want you to be smarter when you plant. I've got 4 handouts for you. You'll have the actual outline for today. I wrote a column a few years ago on landscape design. I'll just send that to you. So it'll be a link. It'll be, you can print it as you want, or store it, or bookmark it, whatever you want to do with it. It's yours. I've got what are the things here? I printed out one because I didn't want to print out like 400 pages of stuff and waste my ink or whatever. But that's a handout here. Outdoor design. This is basically how do you design. It's 2 pages. This is the technical textures, colors, shapes, forms, but looks right. We'll do some basics. Irrigation. If you're designing, you got to water it here. It doesn't go by itself. You're no longer in the Midwest. You're no longer in Kansas anymore, Toto. This is where we're going to have to watch out. We'll cover some of that too. And then I created one. Some of you aren't going to plant yourself. Some of you are going to have people plant it for you. I made a spec sheet for installers. How do you plant it? Where do you put the irrigation? Where the stakes should go? And I thought that might be a value for those folks that you're going to instruct someone to put it right here for you. So those will all be in your inbox later today, more than likely. So, and then I've got hey Ken, we don't have that sign up sheet yet. You're gonna get that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I am.
So
Right now, I'm trying to put the handouts into this.
I got it. We'll send that through real quick here as soon as we're trying to get prepared. The cold makes us slow too. So just like, it's hard to get going. So, and then when your chairs, like all these chairs, and this much snow and then this much ice, and you're trying to peel off the covers, it's just, everything is slower when it's cold out. Now we do get sub-zero every once in a while, about every 10 to 12 years, we go sub-zero, very rare. I don't like it. Neither do the plants, but everything moves really like blinkers. You folks in the cold country, you big from Minnesota, like blinkers start going, whoa, whoa. I mean, the rubber on your tires are hard. It's just like ridiculous. More than likely, we're like this. This is our normal winter. We'll get some snow and then it'll thaw. We'll get some snow, then it'll thaw. It'll do this through April. So don't be tricked. March, it turns really nice. But we're not out of it yet. So it can still get cold. So I'm trying to write an article right now on the blunders we make as gardeners. And here's the things to watch. And number 1 is planting too early, because we get impatient. So impatient and gardener kind of go in the same sentence. That's why your inbox is filled with like garden catalogs, and they know what you want. They're giving it to you, so you can plan. So my name is Ken Lane. I own the garden center. I'm the 2nd generation owner. So my father-in-law started the garden center back in 1962. This is our new location. So this one we built new. 1983, he moved to the garden center to here, and then we've had farms and stuff all over the county ever since. My daughter is the 3rd generation, so she's coming in. She's in her late, I won't tell her how old, because that's rude. Anyway, she's got her master's, she's well educated, now she's training to take over the 3rd generation. So it's very much a family business. So that's kind of who I am. I was basically raised in the business. not raised, really, my wife was. She was literally born and raised into business. I married in afterwards, obviously. So we did some corporate moves after college. She was my college sweetheart, moved around the country, and I went, I miss my little town and I want to come back. And so we worked out this deal to come back and take over kind of the garden center. So that's kind of our history where we're at. This will be our 61st spring open house, March, I think 11. Kind of trying to plan this thing out. I think that's the second week in March. Vendors, our growers will be coming in. Just it'll be kind of fun. You want to talk to the people that grew this plant. I've got some that they invented the plant. They crossbred it or grafted it or did whatever. They created this and they got the patent on it. They'll be here. So they're just friends. I call them Chris. You just call them Chris. They're just down as just earthy kind of gardeners. That's our where we're at. So we're looking forward to that. Right now, gardeners have been picked up longer than normal. So it got cold early. So the end of October, November is usually nice, and it was just winter. And so gardeners, we're seeing gardeners coming in now going, let me garden. Where's that at? So I want to go. Let me go. So seed sales are off the charts. House plants, the things that you can do are off the charts. Some new trends that we're seeing. This is a weird one. Never seen this before. But I predict that edible gardens will be big. And it's because of how expensive food is. All of a sudden, the ratio of it used to be you could just go and it was cheaper to buy from Costco than grow it yourself. Not anymore. And so we're seeing that theme. We'll see how it plays out. But we're starting up our tomato counts. We're starting seed starts. We're upping the quantities because we think there's going to be more of that demand. It's kind of a guessing game. We're truly farmers. We're just making this stuff, go in the greenhouse, and we don't want to throw it in the dumpster or compost pile. We kind of want to get it right, but we're seeing this trend already. Already we've had to restock seeds, and it's only January. So these are some trends we're seeing, and I think it's that inflation, supply, whatever that is, we're feeling that as gardeners. Here, how many people are brand new to the area? Like this is, I figured over half the group. Great, welcome to God's country. You're gonna love it here. So now you know what to do. Once you're here 6 months, you close the door behind you. Go, all these new people coming in. Do that. So none of us are from here, not even me. So we're all from someplace else. But there's a rhythm that we go through. It is different here. There's really a couple things you're going to struggle with. One is going to be the sun is more intense. You're a mile up in the air. And so you'd grow geraniums out in, let's say, the Midwest at sea level, where it's more humid, you actually have soil, and you just chuck it right out there and it grows by itself and blooms all season. Just goes here, it's going to struggle more. And the sun is the one that makes it doesn't bloom as long here because the sun is more intense. So you need to get that sun shade thing right. We'll cover that in a minute, but you need to nail that. The other one that really gets people that they don't see, the alkalinity. Everywhere else in the country is very acidic. So all the garden content that you get is mainly for, they call it the Great Garden Arc. So basically it's Washington, D.C., Boston to Chicago, over to Seattle, San Francisco. That's the Great Garden Arc. So financially in our industry, that's where all the money's made, because all the gardeners are there. So when they make when you're on HGTV, you see an ad for something or a plant they're talking about, it's for that. We are forgotten down here. And so there's not enough of us to do a national campaign for it. And so you got to really be careful with, it grows there. Let's say Japanese maples from Californians. I want to ask how many, because I know it's half of the people that put their hands up are from California. Raise your hand. We're starting. I did a California tour too, but you want to keep that on the down low. We love refugees from California. Just teasing. Anyway, you love your Japanese maples. They grow out full sun there, but there's more humid. It's mild. It'll take our cold. When you look at that national tag, it says grows in full sun. We'll take our cold. It grows here, and it does. It doesn't like alkaline soil, alkaline water. It doesn't like wind. Doesn't like sun. all of a sudden, where do you put a Japanese maple in your yard? And a pot on the north side, pretty much. You got to keep it out of the wind, and it will grow fabulous. I've got 3 of them myself. They're all in containers, and they're substantial, but I've got them in the right place. So you'll make some mistakes, but that's where you need to nail that sun and shade thing more accurately. The great thing is we're so mild. We're zone 7, so you want to know of 7. So what garden zones are how cold can a plant go before it dies. So the Midwest is going to be a zone 5. Typically, Flagstaff is more of a zone 5. They need plants to go down to 0 pretty consistently, like sustained, without freezing and dying. Zone 7 is going to be, I can go down to 10 without freezing, without dying off. So actually, I float with zone 8 myself. That's 15 degrees. Because I've got some sunny areas that I can play with as patios. The sun comes up, it just kind of warms it up. And so I'm growing some feral cactus, which really shouldn't grow up here. But I've been able to grow it in a pot. Right now, I just pull it up closer to the house. If it's touching the house in a pot, your house puts off so much warmth that it takes the edge off. So I've got palm trees. They are outside right now, Mexican fantails. They're the hardiest of all the palms. It's in a pot, but I've got it up underneath by the front door. It looks tropical and it's beautiful. It's green, but I'm a gardener and I own a garden center. Imagine that. I get bored with plants. So I want to try the outer limits and see. Plus, I'm trying to test market things for you all before I introduce it here. We've already grown it a couple of years in our own gardens, test garden at my house or some at one of our staffs, our sales folks. Our horticulturalist house, we've already tested it. We know this works. Before we go, oh yeah, try it. And we sell 50 of them in the market and they all die. That is not good PR. And so we're trying to make sure. So, so you'll have some zone 8s, especially if you get out towards Prescott Valley, Dewey Humboldt. That's warmer, just a quick warmer. It's pretty much the same. It's a zone 7. You just have more wind and caliche out there. So caliche is like this layer of basically cement. So it gets chalky gray, wide in the soil, and water does not go through that. If you run into that, you have to break it. We call it a chimney. We don't take a jackhammer and just fracture it. So once you fracture it, water will start seeping through it. But you need to get to the next layer of soil underneath that. So if you look at a road cut, you'll see clay, gunk, rocks, caliche, more clay, gunk, rocks. You got to break that up, and the water will start going through it. So that's. I'll give you a trick on that as we get towards the end of this on how to really ensure those plants thrive. There's a trick to that. Yeah, it's already. You're one of those.
Not north or.
So the closer you get to Chino Valley, Poland, you're zone 7. We're all zone 7. Cottonwood, you folks in Cottonwood, Camp Verde, thank you for tuning in. Sedona, we love you guys. You're zone 7. You might be more zone 8, really, but that cold air settles, and that's what tricks you. So we raised our family in Skull Valley, so we're farming out there for a lot of years. My kids are farm kids, and we had greenhouses, and it was interesting. During the day it'd be warmer, but at night the wind would literally reverse. As the wind comes off of Copper Basin, off the hills, it would just kind of flow backwards. So that cold air kind of settles. You'll see that in your neighborhood. As you're walking the neighborhood, you get down towards the dry wash, it's colder down there. So really, if you're planting fruit trees, you want to have those, not everyone wants to plant them right at the creek side or something. They're thinking, I don't know what they're thinking, Johnny Appleseed, I don't know. You really want to plant those up the hill a little bit, so they'll stay a little bit warmer, especially when they're in bloom. So if they get that cold snap, it'll take the blossom or the fruit that sets. So some tricks that you'll see and you kind of get into. That's one as we've got 50 people here with 50 ideas of how to garden. As you get your garden, you want peonies, or you want to eat more vegetables, you want to privacy screens. I've talked to a separate, we go sidebar and just go, let's show you what the best green screen evergreens are for blocking out neighbors that are I don't know, hot tubbing the nude out there in the backyard. You just don't want to see that, whatever it is. So we can help you with that. That's kind of what we do for a living. Okay. Let's go. Heating, cooling, knowing your plants, spacing, windows, then water and food. That's kind of, I guess I should add how to plant. Planting. All in 40 minutes or less. Okay.
Cool.
There we go. So, heating, cooling. When you're designing your plant, I gather there's a lot of new homeowners here who are new to town, or you're remodeling, so you're taking someone's overgrown and you're going to redo it and put your thumbprint on it, and you should. Think in terms of heating and cooling. So you want your shade trees. Maples do fantastic here. Ash, locust, there's a lot of those beautiful trees that do really amazing here. You want those on your south or southwest side. Because in the heat, it's going to get up to 100, 95. It's going to be in the high 90s in June. It's hot. So you want to put those shade trees on that side so it helps you cool. You can literally cut your heating bill, your cooling bill dramatically just by placing a few strategic trees. Or if you're entertaining, we've got a front courtyard that's just beautiful. But it's hot in the afternoon. We want to put shade there so that we put a big autumn blaze maples to give us a shade there. So it makes it very pleasant, even in the peak of summer, very pleasant. So place those. Your evergreens are for heating, that's for cooling. Your evergreens, spruce, pine, cedar, cypress, junipers. There's a bunch of evergreens, spruce. You put those generally on the north and northwest side because the cold air comes from the northwest. What you're trying to do is cut the wind from just basically creeping into your house. The other one to get into, we mentioned Chino Valley and stuff there, you just have wind. It's just windy in those valleys. And dewy, you all have a wind tunnel that's just ferocious. Especially during the monsoons, if you're really come at you, there you're trying to almost put wind breaks up along the fence line. So you're just trying to cut the wind and keep the wind up at rooftop so those wind shears don't come down into your entertainment zone. So you can use bigger evergreens, so Theodore cedars, all of your junipers, pine trees do it exceptional throughout the area. We've got to get past the myth of Chino Valley is different than Prescott Valley, is different than Dewey, is different than Prescott, is different from Skull Valley, is different. We're all the same. We're all the same kind of soil. Crummy, we don't have any. You're not in Wisconsin. I got a buddy who's got a garden center. He's got 8 foot of topsoil that he deals with. You've got millimeters. And then before they built your house, they brought the backhoe in and they scraped it all off so they could have your footers and your driveways and stuff. So some of you literally have no soil. Well, the soil you have is dead. There's not one living, you can't find a worm anywhere. It's just completely dead soil. And when you put a plant inside that dead soil, it doesn't grow. It doesn't die, it doesn't grow. It just sits there and looks at it. It almost mocks you as a gardener. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not happy. I'm not growing here. I can't believe you put me here. And so you've got to adapt that soil to increase the mycorrhizal worm, the living activity of the soil. The soil is what's living for plants to grow in. So we do some things here with our plants. We're infusing, all of our plants have mycorrhizal colonies in the soil because we know you don't have any. These are the beneficials that attach themselves to the roots, help the roots elongate, it creates the activity. You have a little bit of mulch with that, some organics with our plants, they just start to root out and grow. The likelihood is much greater. So we're trying to help you. Those are things you don't see, but those are things that we're doing. It's just, we just inject the water. So every plant gets this beneficial kind of juicing the soil, basically. We use red soil. Anyway, I can go deeper into that. Not enough about us, but you need to think in those terms for your gardens as well. Many times when that raised bed stops producing is because the plants have actually used up the soil and it literally gets old, stale, it loses vitality. And so you'll need to either amend heavily, or I've got one good customer, boy, he grows the best peppers ever. I hope he's tuned in. He replaces the soil every 3 years, like manure, topsoil mulch. just so he can revitalize, and he grows amazing produce. He's a vegetable grower. So you'll have to do that too with some of your gardens. So you'll fertilize more often and you'll water more often here than you do in other parts of the country to try to keep plants going, because your soil is just not there. Okay, know your plants are sort of covered north, south, east, west. That'll have more to do with where you place plants than what is my zone. So plant zones, I said we're zone 7, which means you can grow zone 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's the lower the number, the colder it goes. So you can grow all the cold, crazy stuff. So peonies, they'll go down to -40, some crazy cold. Lilacs down to -30, some crazy cold. We never get there, but you can grow it. So look for that. As you go higher, you're getting more like Phoenix. So Phoenix is zone 10. So 8 really is kind of dewy, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, those areas are zone 8. So they're 5 degrees colder, so they go down to 15 instead of 10. So they don't get that cold. But they still see snow, they still get frost, it still gets freezing, just not as freezing. If you're up in Groom Creek, Highland Pines, or some of the ridge lines, there you might be a zone 6. Those are plants that need to go down to 5 degrees or so. So Flagstaff, that kind of stuff, you're not here. But anyway, those are really cold. I mean, why would you live there? It's just too cold. It's crazy. Come to God's country. That's what we live here. It just gets too cold. So kind of watch those so know where you're at and place, and then watch your sun and your wind. So just because the tech, don't always, if in doubt, read the sign that we make for that plant. Don't read the tag or the tag. Don't read this tag. Read the sign that we have in front, because we're making that for us here. How does it grow here? How much sun, how much water is needed for here? Our website, top10plants.com. We set up a separate URL just to show up. So this plant is showing up right there, right now. And we don't take this information, put it on the website, and put our signage information. It's a good research tool. We're finding a lot of folks, some people will buy a few things there, but mainly they're looking to research. They come and go, I see that you have, and they ask for it. So it's meant to be a research tool. And so I don't have to answer the phone all day long with 3 people going, do you have all day long? I just go to the website, go to the website. Because you can't pay someone $20 an hour to answer the phone to go, do you have all day long? So it's a strategy to help us service our customers better and reduce some costs. That's purely why you did it. And COVID forced us all to go online. Sort of a strategy all businesses have to do. Okay. I put down spacing and windows. I find that if you got a brand new property, we plant things too close to the house. And so that Italian cypress, which you want it to look like a Mediterranean style, is really well here. That's a thing. And Italian cypress, set the stage, it's this real tall evergreen that only gets about this wide. It's like a pencil. Nice green, softens up. But if you put it underneath your eave, it's going to quickly bump into that overhang. And now you got to curse that thing. So now you got 5 years into this. And now you got to cut it down or space it or top it or do something to make it look like Dr. Seuss plants. You got to like, the other one that's a common mistake I find is they'll take these big plants. They look cute here. Like they got a cute one, have a pine tree or something. It looks so cute. Look at it. We brought it in for Christmas trees. It's for ornaments or front doors and patios. This thing turns into a monster. This is going to be a 35-foot by 15-foot wide pine tree. Solid trunk. Well, this is like a modified, this is like a more desirable ponderosa pine. It holds its foliage right down to the ground. Whereas a ponderosa, basically you're planting the trunk in the yard. All the foliage is up there. You never see anything down here, which is where you generally want it, especially when it's young. This one is a better choice, and it's less prone to give bark beetle, imps beetle, flathead, all these different bugs that naturally eat our forested plants. This one doesn't, is hardier. This one looks good, but if you put it right next to your house or mainly driveway, this is the biggest mistake with these. It looks good for 5 years. And already people are asking right now, because we're into the pruning season, oh, my deodar cedar is I can't drive my pickup truck into the driveway. What do? Well, you should have planted it 10 feet further back. Just keep it right. I think it's been around, so that's keep it right there. It's totally changed. You folks online, the handouts, we already embedded that into the sidebar where the conference chat bar is. So you can download those on yourself by yourself. So we're trying to make it, we know you're not here, although you know that you should be. Come on down and visit us, please. So anyway, but you've got the handouts already. So watch where you place these. Think the ultimate size, how big are they going to be, and place them appropriately. The two biggest mistakes I find, they put them too close to the windows, too close to the properties are so small anymore for the newer houses. It's so tight between your neighbors, you almost just have a walkway. And this will fit there for a little bit, then quickly it overgrows its space. You go, what do? It's almost chainsaw bait at that point. You start over, which I like. I'll sell you another plant all day long. So I want to go to Austria this year. I need to sell plants, but really for my friends, I kind of want you to once and done plants, especially your trees, your bigger plants, hedgerows. You kind of want to place some rain. So watch that one. Okay, that's the reason I put watch your windows and spacing. Water and food. Right now, you are watering your plants. We say that you should water your plants at least twice a month in the winter. Now, it's been an exceptionally wet winter, so most years you got to water at least twice. If you get a nice storm, like we had a good 4 inches of snow at my house, that's probably enough to water for the next several weeks. But after it thaws and we haven't seen moisture for a couple of weeks, probably ought to take out by hand and water things, especially new plants or your things in raised beds or containers. It is very easy to forget them. And what kills plants in winter is dry and cold. If the plant dries out and then we get a cold snap, it just goes from, oh, it's 30 at night, 50, 60 in the day. And then you go to, oh, it's going to be 18. That's what kills it. If it's dry with that, you'll get what we call winter kill or winter burn. You'll see this on your red tip photinias, your bigger evergreens, because they're still using moisture. They've got foliage out. So they're more exposed than, let's say, a lilac, forsythia, or some of these deciduous plants. They lost their leaves. Those are deciduous. Evergreens, they're so exposed that they get dry, they'll sacrifice the outer branches to keep the heart of the plant alive. And it really shows up on things. I see it mostly on red tip photinias, euonymus, things like that. I just stay warm. Hey, for me, what kind of bird is that? I don't know. Anyone know birds? No? Okay. It's got a crown on it or whatever. Looks like a female, I guess. I don't know. They're seeing one too. Okay, so that's water during the peak of the growing season for brand new plants. You're probably watering twice a week. So let it go 3 or 4 days and give it a deep soak. Things that are established, that is, it's got a couple of years of roots underneath them, once a week is more than enough. You all are freakish, you know that, right? It's January, there's snow on the ground, look how bundled you are. You're here at a garden class, they've got medication for that. There's something off about you all. So that describes a gardener. Basically, we love funky hats, we love bright gloves, we love brand new funky tools. I gave my mother a new, what they call it, it's basically a spade knife. She thought, this is the greatest tool ever. Thank you, Mom. Have fun with your new garden tool. She's a gardener. So she taught me how to garden. So it's just kind of part of this who we are. Make sure that you're watering fertilizer, so don't overwater. You all are too generous sometimes. If you're more prone to overwater than to underwater, quite honestly. We see more indicate, and it's the gardeners, it's you all. It's the gardeners that, and if you're out towards the valley areas where you've got a well, you're the worst offenders of all, because water's free. You just throw it out there and you're watering every day and the plants start to yellow, they start to send off their leaves and they're stressed out. That's usually overwatering. And what happens, just the inside, we got a whole other class on this, but the quick answer is our water is so alkaline that that ring that builds up in your bathtub or your sinks, your toilets, that builds up in your soil too. That's alkaline, that's minerals. And so it can actually plug up the root pores in your soil. So the plant it was perking, now it's not, now it's draining even less. All of a sudden the plant goes, I'm drowning, I just need to breathe. And so about once a week, it's pretty good on your trees, shrubs, vines. Now tomato plants, obviously, they're the biggest wimps ever. I mean, they go, it's hot in June, by 5 o'clock, they're wilting. I don't care how much water they have, they're not happy. So they're just gonna do that. As soon as the sun goes down, they go, oh, I'm fine, psych, I'm okay, sorry, don't worry about me. They might need water more often, flowers more often, or can shed its leaves, but trees, shrubs, most of the things in your yard, about once a week when they're established, twice a week when they're not. During the growing season is April through October. That's our true. March, we're growing, like the daffodils will be in full bloom. They're almost getting done blooming by the end of March. Then tulips come online. Then the forsythia start to, I think but it starts in March, but really the full on everything is growing April through October. That's when you got all that new foliage, new flowers coming on. If you want to care for those new leaves, about twice a week for brand new plants in the ground. Once a week for established things. And what I'll do, because I'm always introducing new plants into my yard, everything's on a drip system by zone. If I put a new plant in, I'll set up the whole yard is made to go for the established plants. Then I'll break my hose out or watering can and add that one extra watering that it might need. Kind of judge and see how much moisture we've had that week, and I'll add to it as I need to. So the drip takes the bulk of the pressure off. And water. They kind of want to go out and nurture. And it's a brand new plant, they're like little babies. I want to make sure they're okay, and I want to talk to them, make sure they're all right. And so it's good to go out and water. They recognize that too. Question.
So we have an established aspen.
Yeah.
Do they have a different?
So established aspen, she's got, how much should I water this once a week during the growing season?
So say,
Twice a month during the winter. If we get a good snow, you can cut one of those out. That's on everything. Aspens, everyone thinks aspens need so much water. Actually, if you kill an aspen, it's always from overwatering. It's because of our heavy clay soil. Our soil is just so thick, it doesn't dry out very quickly, which really, it takes the edge off of your water bill, but it fools you because the top layer dry out, oh, it looks dry. It starts to even crack. But if you go down at all, any depth of the soil, it's still moist. Plant is still moist. So that's where water meters, there's different tricks to check if a plant is moist, and take a big screwdriver, it goes in, you're good. If it's hard, it means it's dry. Piece of rebar. There's different ways. You can research that on your own, but there's different ways to check. A water meter is a real good tool for you all who are new to the area. It's like a $10 investment, well, whatever they are. And it helps you get a feel for how long does it take for things to dry out. Yeah.
Oh, I was just asking, I was gonna ask what's the time frame for being established?
Two springs, two growing seasons. Yep. So let's cover planting. So water, food, you're gonna fertilize more often here. There is no food in your soil. There's nothing good about your soil. So you'll find that you're fertilizing more often here than other places in the country. So other places you can just you can spit on it. That's probably enough to act. There's so much soil there, so much topsoil that it just feeds off that. It can go for years with that. Here, we've got rock lawns, so we don't have grass. So there's not even this regenerative organics that happen with leaves and foliage and grass and mowing. Literally, it's rock, and then we take blowers to make sure nothing ever gets on the rock, so it stays looking perfect. So there's no introduction to any organics whatsoever into your gardens. You'll need to supplement that more often. So really, I say fertilize 3 times a year. So we make our own fertilizer. It's organic. It's cottonseed meal and bird guano and fairy dust, great stuff that makes plants grow, but it's made for here, and it's granular. Stay away from water soluble foods. This is where Miracle Grow has not done us justice. Here, especially in this area, it's a salt-based fertilizer. It's going to add to it. Oh, I can go on that one. Basically, don't use Miracle Grow, it's bad. Okay, use granulars, it's good. And then don't use chemical fertilizers, Scott's and all these petroleum-based fertilizers. We're all drinking groundwater, even if you get it from the city. We're all drinking groundwater. The last thing we need to do is put a whole bunch of chemicals on our gardens. And then if the rains come and the monsoons come and the summer, it all flushes downhill and gets down in the water table. I could personally pollute our water table myself. Just because I'm going to sell 4 truckloads of fertilizer a year. We've just chosen we're only going to do organics. It's healthier for the plants. It releases slower, whereas a chemical will release within 30 days, just like that. Or a major rain, it all releases, it goes in the soil, that it goes so fast, the plant can't pick it all up. Whereas organics they break down over a very long period of time. So you put this on the ground, it's good for like 3 months. If you're going to do that, so if you're thinking holidays, when you fertilize, just think holidays. Think Easter, 4th of July, Halloween. You fertilize on those 3 holidays, you will have the most beautiful plants ever seen. We're seeing right now, so really since the new year, you're seeing some plants go yellow. We call it winter chlorosis. So deodar cedars, they have this, they should be rich green, blue looking. Your euonymus, your hedgerows like red tip potenia, they should be deep, rich forest green, not this light colored off color. That's winter chlorosis. For those kinds of plants, that's usually an alkalinity thing. If you were to fertilize those again at the new year, mainly your evergreens, they would stay a rich green. They would get this faded, muted color to it. And the last thing you want to do is look out, sip tea outside your window, and you're eating a freshly baked cookie, and you're looking at yellow, pale plants out in your yard. You want them to be green. It's the only thing you got to look at now through into February. Kind of want them to look good. So keep them green. So use granular foods, use organic foods, and then do it 3 times a year. The water solubles, it is not even worth investing. I don't even sell Miracle Grow. And more people doing more damage and good. They go, what's happening with my plant? No, it looks like a food thing. Tell me about what you're doing. It was always Miracle Grow, but Miracle Grow is a salt-based fertilizer. You're adding to your water. It's building up with your heavy mineral water already. It compounds that, and then it clogs up your soils. And then it flushes through the soil so quick, the plants literally can't get most of the food. It's just literally just gone. And let's face it, it's not going to grow tomatoes the size of your head. That's all just marketing BS, basically. Use different foods, make a difference. We do use water solubles. We make our own. It's not salt-based. It's called Flower Power. It's mainly for containers, raised beds. Out in the yard, #1 seller is the all-purpose plant food, 744. Because there's such a trend for sustainable, edible fruit trees, grapes, vegetables, berries, and we do all those things very well. We did create an organic fruit and vegetable food as well. And there we bumped that formula up. I like the chemistry. I like Umberger. And I like the chemistry, so I'm always tweaking my recipe. Basically, fertilizers are a recipe for making plants grow. There we bumped the calcium up because we know that you have a lack of calcium. So it's 6,4,4,7. It's got an extra number in the formula, just nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, like every fertilizer. You have to put that on. And then we put 7% calcium in there. If you get blossom end rot, that's where that blossom was on your tomatoes or peppers or squash, and then it just blackens, or the squash yellows, the fate drops off. That's blossom end rot. It's almost always a lack of calcium. Our customers are going to fade. They're going to struggle with that, but we can help with it. We just make a form of that. Your fruits can be a little smaller here, and sometimes they're pithier or off flavored. That's usually almost always a calcium. You put more calcium, you'll up the size, up the flavor. They smell more fragrance. They're just better for you. So that's a reason that we're doing it. Pelletize, yep.
It should think globally, fertilizer shortages, if you get to freight here.
So are there going to be fertilizer shortages? That's a Ukrainian thing, yes. Certain minerals are crazy. I mean, phosphorus comes from that part of the country. There are disruptions. The good thing is they don't tell you is mining takes a lot of that stuff up and China's kind of offline for now. So manufacturing, that kind of stuff. So yes, it's gone up. Nitrogen is not as bad. So just certain elements. That's another benefit of going with organics. It's cottonseed meal. We're getting that out of Casa Grande. We're famous for our cotton that we grow here in Arizona. We're getting the bird guano, basically, chicken, turkey, different bird poops. They're from here, so you don't have to go outside the country and go get it. So it doesn't. We do put sulfur in it. Sulfur did go up. It's expensive. That's what hit the price of our fertilizers, because we know that your water, your soil is alkaline. We want to put sulfur in there to lower that pH, because we know you're going to struggle. That's what keeps everything green. So there are some of that, yeah. It's starting to settle down some. We get rid of this stupid war in Europe, we'll be fine. But just that's what we got for now. Yep.
Say if an evergreen is going to
Yes, it's a fertilizer issue. Yes, if your evergreens are lighter in color, that's a food thing. It's usually that October, Halloween. Seems counterintuitive, but trust me, really work. If you want blooms, if your lilacs didn't bloom last year, it's because you didn't fertilize in October. It's setting buds summer through winter, basically. And so it's using that food to create this spring's flower. It's very strategic and why. The reason you fertilize in 4th of July, because you've been watering like crazy through June. All the food you had in there last spring, all the manures, you front loaded all your soils, you flushed all that nutrient out of the soil. And we know that the monsoons are coming. You can fertilize right before the monsoon rains hit. It's like magic. You get a whole other set of flowers on the roses, whole other set of growth on your shade trees. It's a game changer. But we're taking advantage of that moisture that's coming in the monsoon rain. We always get rain in July, August, September, always. The question is how much, we never know. But we always have increasing humidity, always. That's an environmental thing that's unique. Monsoons aren't global. They're unique to the Southwest, kind of West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona thing. It's our thing. And so you can take advantage of that as gardeners and work with the environment instead of against it. That's the reason why. But of course, spring, plants are hungry. They're going to wake up. They're going to use anything that's in the soil. They're going to use it all to flush out all this growth. If you're doing blooming things, so let's cover that too. So you'll probably want to write this down. 20% of your garden, of your landscape should be dedicated to spring blooming plants, 20%. 20% should be dedicated to summer blooming plants. These are things like crepe myrtles, Russian sage, rose of Sharon's. There's a whole series of roses, really. There's a whole series of summer bloomers. They're just famous. That time, Salvia greggii or autumn sage. They're famous. They're summer flowers. You need to represent that some in your yard. 20% should be fall color. These are aspens and maples and burning bush. Then you just go, whoa, it's fall. Isn't it so pretty? People come up from Phoenix and look at the fall color. You want that in your yard. You want some reds, some yellows, some oranges. You want some of that. Right now, it feels naked in your yard. If you don't have 20% of your yard is evergreen, you're going, dang, I wish I'd had some more. So you feel it this time of year. The last 20% is for whatever you want. If you're gardeners, and you have quite a few folks that this is their summer home. Right now, they're not here. They're down in Scottsdale, Palm Springs. They're in their winter home. We see that quite a bit. Well, if that's the case, you put the 20% towards summer when the times that you're here. Have some more late blooming lilac, repeat blooming lilacs, and some more crepe myrtles, some more that blooming, more roses, things that look good, more shade trees, because you're up here in the summer. dedicated to that. If we have quite a few folks kind of interested, we get this migration that happens. Quite a few Minnesota, Wisconsin, Alaskans, they winter down here. They summer up there. So we'll see as the Scottsdale folks are leaving, we get this movement. Well, they're dedicating more of your landscape plants to the evergreens. So Oregon grapes and hollies, and camellias, junipers, and all those evergreen things. So it feels more like home while you're here. That's kind of a rough way. The other one that you want to write down is 60%. 60% of your landscape, of your property, you take the plot, 60% should be covered in green, living, softscape, the plants. And that includes the rooftop, that includes the driveway, 60% should be covered. So if a tree is up there, so the tree is the entire canopy area counts. If you get less than 60%, you will feel it. You can walk down your street going, oh, they like to get, your gut will tell you, well, would they run out of money? Did they not have enough money? They didn't have enough plants, all they had was rock. It feels kind of dirty, dusty, like it's more open. One tree, the HOA gives you, your contractor gives you 2 trees, a shrub, and a boulder. That's not enough for your whole yard. You're gonna have to add some more to it. So at 60% is that gap. If you get too much, let's say you bought that house from the older gentleman that just couldn't garden in the last 10 years, they're gardeners. Last 10 years, they just couldn't maintain it and it got overgrown. And now you're taking care of it. You're gonna have to break out the shears, the chainsaw, kind of thin your way back because it feels too close. It feels too tight. So that means it's over 60%. So there's a balance. You can go a little, there's some fudge factor with that. If you bought that model home, they always overplant the model home because they know this percentage. It's a basic landscape design. So what they teach you like year 1, 60%. They're going to overplant that model home so it feels more like a house. And now they sold out the development, and then you bought the last one, and it's overplanted. So 3 years later, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't even get to the front door. So you're going to have to thin some of those things. There is a technique where you do overplant at first. Like for me, when I have a new house, I purposely plant really fast growing trees close to the house. I don't want cottonwood in my yard. I don't want willows in my yard. They lift footers, they take the driveway, they wreak havoc. They're high water users. There's nothing good about it. Except at first they're pretty cheap because they grow so fast. And you put a little plant in, they fill out really quick. So if I need shade close to the house, I'll plant one of those, and I fully expect to cut it down in 5 years. So whenever I've got where I want things to grow, my maples and aspens and my junipers and spruce and pines and stuff, once they finally get up to size, I'll thin this out. So you can't overplant some and purposely surgically take some things out. That's coming from me. I own a garden center, so plants are a little bit cheaper for me than you. Actually, not that much, because what you find is you overplant. I don't try that. It costs way more actually to work here than it does to shop here. So half of my staff works here just for the employee discount. That's the only reason. So they can plant more. So, but anyway, that's 60%. Just kind of get that balance right. So. And it plays out more here than other parts of the country because we're dealing with rock. In the Midwest, everywhere else in the country, you've got lawns. So most of the extra space is lawn. And so it feels natural just because you've got green, living, softscape out there, and it covers that mistake. Here you got to be more right because you don't have that. You've got rock, which is that's hardscape. Your patios are hardscape, your decks. This is all the non-living things are hardscape. Softscape is your plant material. That should be 60-40, softscape to hardscape. So just write that down. Do more research. It's so common, it'll pop right up for you. Okay. All right, so let's cover how
to show your prowess as an artist. Rita has a question about fertilizer.
Okay, yeah, we can.
She wants to know if she didn't fertilize in October, should I do it now?
Yeah, So Rita, here's a great question. So yes, so you can always catch up, especially if you're doing organic fertilizers, absolutely, go for it. Now, you can't overdo it. If it's synthetics, I would say it's really important to take that March, you should fertilize the whole yard. Your perennial beds, your shrubs, trees, everything should be fertilized. And don't focus just on the trunk. You want to focus on the drip line. So at the trunk of a plant, there are no feeder roots. Those are just big anchoring roots. In fact, they're so barky and thick and they can't absorb water, they can't absorb food. The finer haired, white haired feeder roots are further out. They're kind of halfway out the outer branch to halfway into the trunk. That's where all the feeder roots are. That's where you want your irrigation. That's where you want your food. That's where you want to place. That's where you want to focus. Mistake I find a lot of folks make, they chuck it all right at the base, and it doesn't react as well as they want it to. And they should have sprinkled it out further out in the drip lines. So Rita, yeah, go for it. If you're using the all-purpose plant food, do it now and do it at the end of March. You'll catch up and you'll have beautiful yards. Yeah, go for it. It just may, if you're seeing this chlorosis, that yellowing, it may not yellow up. It may not green up. It'll green up sooner than your neighbors that didn't do it, but it's not going to take a yellow plant and green it the next week. It's going to take, it takes some time for that plant to absorb that and affect the green. Yep.
And so if you, fertilize it now, also be, these beds that I'm taking.
Yeah, so right now, I've got an article in the can. In fact, I'll make sure you all get it. I read a weekly garden call. I'll make sure you get a copy of that, just so you see it. It's whatever's going on in gardens, it's for here. The paper picks it up as well. So they'll print it, they always dumb it down. Sometimes they get the picture wrong. I'm embarrassed sometimes, but if you get it by email, it's just directly from my desktop to yours. I'll embed links, where to get more, how to get more references. I'll just make sure you got a copy of that. And your question was one more time?
Should we also, so
Oh, raised beds, yeah. The one was how to get gardens ready, soils. So really you're getting you should get all of your gardens ready now. Because planting season starts March 1. Potatoes, garlics, onions, pansies, snapdragons, kale, they all go in March. And you'll want to be doing it. It'll be beautiful. We won't be dressed like this. It'll be glorious in the day and cold at night. With a rainstorm, with a snowstorm every once in a while. That's what we have. You'll want to garden. Get your soils ready so that you can plant. You want to get them ready, like manures and compost, that kind of stuff, fertilizers. And then you want them to have time to settle. Kind of that manure can be too hot if you mix it and plant right away. If you put it a month ahead of time before you plant, that's perfect. So now is your time when you get your soils ready for raised beds. Just if you've got a big, let's say big property out in Alden, you got a half-acre vegetable plot, or whatever, from corn, get it ready now, and then you'll be ready to plant your. Yeah. Now is the time. I mean, with this snowstorm, now is the time to put wildflowers down. There's no better time than right now. Take advantage of the cold and the moisture. It will be a blockbuster flower season this year. I think the wildflowers are going to be over the top because we're 190% above our average moisture. That always sets up the deserts, the mountains with beautiful columbines in the mountains and lupins and stuff down lower. It's going to be glorious. And you can add those in your own yards. Next week's class is on wildflowers, how to do it. So come or tune in or whatever. So we get y'all covered.
yeah, just now, put my stuff.
Yeah, well, as soon as it thaws, this will be gone in a few days. So with wildflowers, I actually put it on top of the snow. Yeah, it works magically.
And the birds will get.
And the birds get some, but it's hard to compete with the birds in the snow. And yeah, birds are, you don't want to put the most expensive wildflower. Now we're going to next week's class. So you'll have to tune back in for wildflowers. So. You can. I did last year. I did the most spectacular stuff ever. So here's how you plant. You ready? So you take a 5-gallon plant, which is the average size plant, let's say this. This is a camellia. I brought this for you all in California because California is famous for their camellias. Camellia is a tropical plant. It does not grow here. Except for this one. This is called Ice Princess. It's not a traditional big camellia, like tree. But it has the same flower to it. It's a little bit smaller, but some camellias can be really big. Folks have been in camellia country, you know what that looks like. But you can see the buds. This is a winter bloomer. This will be in bloom February through March and April. It's amazing. It's still snow on the ground. It will blow. It wants to go. I mean, it's cracking color down. So, but this is a traditional 5-gallon plant. So you're going to want to go as deep as the bucket and 3 times as wide. That's the size of the hole. Now, some of you guys, you got equipment. You want to dig a hole down to China. Don't do that. And you don't have to work that hard. It's better to have a wide hole than a deep hole. And so, and then the top of this soil that you see here, this should still be exposed. Don't bury it, especially with trees. You'll get what's called crown rot. That trunk that's been growing like that for, let's say this fruit tree is probably 5, 6, 7 years old. It's never had soil touch its bark at the trunk. Just keep it the same. Don't get creative. Keep this exposed. This helps aeration. Just keep the top of that root ball at the top of your soil. The other one that we get mixed up with, this is because we're so close to Phoenix. First of all, who would live 10 miles from the sun? I mean, come on. It's 115 degrees in June. That's hell. That's where gardeners are put. When they do bad stuff here on Earth, who's living down there? Here up in God's country, we plant it differently. We don't have what's called a dip or divot or you need a water harvest in your plant. Don't plant things in a hole. Plant it at soil level or even a little above. Phoenix, when it's 110 degrees out at 10 o'clock at night, things will dry out. Here, we don't do that. It's going to get down to 60, 50 degrees. Even in the summer, it's going to cool down. You don't want your plants to stay wet in the evening. They need to go into the evening dry, or you'll get mildew and fungus, all kinds of crazy stuff that happens. So, and then we have a monsoon rain. They get monsoon. They'll get one storm and gives them a ½ an inch. We get like 6 inches of rain during our monsoon pattern. So we get a lot of moisture. So rain harvesting, you can literally, with your irrigation going and some rain late in the day, you can literally drown the plants. So we want to actually have that, we want that rain, that monsoon rain, to drain away from your plants, not to go into your plants. That's a Phoenix thing, not up here. So that's a big mistake I find people make. It's a rookie move. So have it at soil level, or even for you folks in the heavy clay areas, that backside of Prescott Valley, all the way to Alden, those areas, very heavy clay. The ranch, Yavapai Hills area, really heavy clay, caliche layers throughout that ridge line. There, I might even have, I would plant on a very slight mound. So here's my garden. I'd have just a couple inch, just leave a couple inches and feather that soil down like here, put your irrigation on top of that. That will ensure that at least this much of the roots can breathe, even in the heaviest of monsoon rains in August. So it's all about March and August. That's when you're going to kill plants with overwater. So March is really heavy, wet. There's generally a bump in moisture, and it's usually heavy, gooey moisture, heavy snow kind of stuff. And so it makes that soil gooey for longer, and the roots will literally rot off the plants. So we're trying to prevent root rot. So those two techniques, plant at or even a little above. I'm on the north slopes up above the high school, Prescott Lakes area. There and overlook the Dells. It's beautiful. It's a vista. It's what you want, the mountain view. But it's the hardest gardening I've ever done. It's a north slope, heavy clay soil, rocks, and I've killed more plants. I cannot grow manzanita back there, and I want one so bad. I tried 5 times, killed it every time because it's just so heavy and wet. I drown them out every time. I don't even water them. They're not on irrigation. It's just So you're gonna deal with some of those, you're gonna make some of those mistakes. Don't beat yourself up, reset, and then try to plant a little bit higher. So it's about the moist, it's about the, you can't breathe in the wet cycles that we have in March and late monsoons. So here, don't go the same depth as a bucket. Don't go down. You don't want that plant to, if you loosen all the soil up, as you water it, it will compress, go back down to its natural hard state. And the plant will all of a sudden settle 2-3 inches below soil level. You want, and it's critical to be at soil level. So just go down to whatever the bucket is, but go wide. Roots do not go down. That's a myth. They don't, there is no tap roots. Actually, there is. It goes down about 18 inches, it turns, I call it the hockey stick. And then it just runs like this. These great big junipers, all these natives, you see them cleared for your neighborhood. The roots are only like 2 feet down, but they're really wide. So if you know that's how your plant's gonna grow, fruit trees, shade trees, evergreens, whatever it is, encourage them to grow wide. Some of you have not got any soil in your yard. You just have rocks and boulders and clay. You get chunks, some of you are gonna hit a boulder. You have to dig that thing out, roll it out, you got no soil left. Anything bigger than a golf ball is bad. Screen it, get rid of it. Because it bakes in June, heats up, and then it heats up the roots and it bakes the roots. And it's the water molecules, the particle's too big, it can't attach itself. She wants finer, smaller soil in there. There is no organic in your soil. You're gonna have to add it. So there, you're gonna add about, I brought some mulch, yeah. You're gonna add some mulch to your soil. There's different philosophies on this, but this works. They've been doing this for 30 years plus. This really works. So you want about 25% mulch to your native soil. So screen it. What's left, add about 25%. If you hit a big rock, you can go up to 50-50. Cheat it. Any more than that, it gets too gooey. It's too much. About 50-50. Blend that together, use that to backfill around your root balls. Pack it in real tight, water it. You get it all planted, sprinkle some all-purpose plant food on top to fertilize it for the next few months, because you want to encourage roots as fast as you can. It's all about the root growth. You can mix it in. I'm the laziest gardener ever. So yeah, some people will mix it in their mulch. Me, I just throw it on top. I just sprinkle, it's fine. And then I'll water it. I didn't plan on going this deep into how to plant, but we make a compost tea. It's called Root and Grow. It's made for transplant shock. You stimulate root growth. I would water this in with a blend of water and root grow. I'd water it in with root and grow. That's going to help it stabilize, encourage new roots. I would also use root grow every couple of weeks until I see the new growth. Oh, it's going. I see new growth, it's blooming now. Oh, it's settled in. Then I would cut it off of the root grow, just let the food do its thing. So that's kind of how you plant. Basically, food, mulch, root grow, and digging the hole right. That's kind of how you plant everything, whether it's a rose, a honeysuckle, whatever it is. Okay, there's a question over here. Yes.
If you're going to have a tree and a plant for
Yeah.
a while,
Yeah.
do you want to use your own soil?
Good question. Yeah.
Because then you're going to be transplanting.
Right.
Transplanted in a
Yeah.
year, in 2 years, whatever. Do you start out in your own soil?
So we repeat that, just focus on line. That's really enough to really repeat. So she has a raised bed or a container, she's gonna plant a tree in or whatever, on a straw. I grow roses in pots. What soil should I use? Should I use soil from the yard? Should I make my own? If you're dealing with raised beds and containers, use potting soil. So we make our own. We've got a box here. This is made for containers. This is what our grower put this together years ago. And this is what we start our tomatoes in, this is what we start our roses in, this is what we start our plants in. So if you need more soil to get things to grow for you, just fill it with this. Okay, so I've got a whole class coming up on just how to prepare soil. I think it's the first one in February. We'll go really deep into that. What is the mix and how much of each, but use potting soil. For me, I'm getting my soils ready, my pots, I've got over 50 pots. I grow peach trees, all kinds of stuff in containers. It's so easy. I've had 2 back surgeries. I just can't get down in the dirt like I used to. I want to, I just can't. Pots are just easy for me. Raised beds are just easy. So there I can use better soils. When I'm replanting, let's say snapdragons, I'll try to dig up that old stuff. I'm trying to get some of that soil out of there so I can always add or introduce new, fresh soil every year. Sometimes you're not successful because you're dealing with old dirt. And it turns to granite, all kinds of stuff. Whatever you do, don't take the crummy stuff out in your yard and introduce it into a pot where it instantly turns into a brick. Hard as a rock. You want to use other stuff. Then we go down a couple plants because I feel like you all can go all day long. This is like your 4th question. Okay, go for it.
My landscape, I don't know if it's just settled or whatever, but I've got a couple plants that are really low now.
Yeah.
But I just go in and feel.
So she's got some plants that have settled. It's when you don't want to dig it there. It's too deep. So they cut it too deep. Now it's kind of settled down. So now what do I do? You're kind of committed at this point. It's very adult. It's fairly young. You could almost pop it up. 6 months, you could pop it up through some potting. It's a potting soil. Just run underneath and get it to raise back up. Once it's rooted, you're set because you don't want to. What's the lesser of evils? Raise it up or sever major roots. 6 months, you go for it. Just take a bag and you can do it yourself. Shovel, it's not rooted, pull it out, throw some soil in there, try to get it level up. You might even go a little bit above so that as it settles a little bit more, you don't have to repeat the kind of thing. You will break some root hairs when you do that. It's okay. They're small, they're young, they'll grow really fast. Actually, they'll probably form, when you sever a root, probably form 2 roots where your root can live in here. Even now, the winter, do it right now while it's still winter, right now. Yeah. Yeah. Saturn.
This is it.
So she's saying, should I put my husband out there with a shotgun to protect my garden? Did I summarize that one correctly? Pretty much, so you do have patagonia, deer, pack rats are my nemesis. Voles are out right now, some catching those honey field mice. They're roaming around because they're hungry. I think Mama just pushed them out, root out. They got to go find their own home and finding them in the traps. And I don't want them in my hot tub. I don't want them in my grill. I don't want them. They do damage. And so I've got a trap line that I just have 3 or 4 rat traps, and every week I get something. I never know what. My neighbors are happy because I get theirs, I get mine, I just keep them out of the way. Javelina, I have a fence in the backyard for the dogs, meaning cedar fence. My neighbor here, I could have that. In the front yard, you cannot have fence in our HOA. Unless you sneak out at night and you put a little wire about 1 foot off the ground, you sneak an electric wire out, and you take green paint and camo it, green and brown, camo so no one can see it. You don't have yellow insulators, or the retired sergeant's gonna call you on it as he comes around the neighborhood with a cupboard. But you hide it, because I don't want to see it. I don't want to see a fence either. But then what I'll do is I'll put a little piece of aluminum foil with some peanut butter on it over the wire. And that lead boar is going to be attracted to that. They're going to hit that, and the entire herd is going to freak out. And little wire will be laying all over the ground. You set it back up, and it won't be back. So fencing is the only true way to keep animals out. Deer, some of your neighbors are feeding your deer. Or folks up in the mountain club, those areas, some folks they're feeding the deer. It's not right. They become dependent. They get into neighborhoods, and they can become domesticated. And a buck and mule is dangerous, flat out dangerous. They're mean, and they'll bore your eyes out. You shouldn't be feeding them, but they do. The only way to keep them out is fence them or have a spot where you can kind of protect them. Generally, I was able to keep elk and deer out of a 6-foot fence. It's called alleyway deer and elk and mule deer, big ones. Just put lodge poles up and put field fence around and kept them out. They don't want to clear that. They can clear over that, but they don't have health insurance like you and I do. And if they break a leg, they know they're doomed. So they'll be real cautious about wanting to clear stuff. So kind of watch that. So a couple of plants I brought just to kind of show you. First of all, fruit trees are just coming in. We go apple, pears, cherries, peaches, apricots, nectarines, almonds, walnuts. We got all those coming in. So this is the first crop. I got another load of trees. I have probably 200-300 trees coming next week. So it's starting to come in. If you can put your deciduous trees in, those that lose their leaves, before they wake up, put them in by the end of March, it's best. Less pressure. So when they wake up in the spring, they're kind of going, where the heck am I at? What just happened? I guess I'm happy they root out. If you wait until they've got flowers, you're gonna lose some of your flowers. If you wait till you have leaves, they're gonna shed some of they're gonna go through more stress. So just some, you can get them in evergreens. It's like this pine tree or this juniper here. This is what I use to screen my my neighbors at. So I'm in a classic mountain town. I'm not the king or the emperor. I'm not the top of the hill. My neighbors that have more expensive houses are up there, and they look down into my house. I feel I don't want to do that. So I use this at the street to kind of block them off. I just put a pattern in. Let's cover that a little quick. So just put a pattern of Spartan junipers because I wanted green. Got a lot of blue in my yard already. We got junipers. Arizona colors are generally blue or blue-green. I wanted green. I wanted some contrasting. So I felt more garden, seed garden. So I just took this plant and I put 4 of them there, and I put another row of 3, and I zigzagged them like this so that it looks more natural. If I were to just put them in a row, it would look very formal, very East Coast. We're not an East Coast garden design here. There's a few places for spirals and pom-poms and very formal pieces. Those are right in the front yard, in front of the window, that kind of stuff. But out in the yard, we're generally informal, more natural. We're trying to use the native manzanitas, Apache plums, the things that are growing there are already. We're trying to blend in with that. And so here I just took junipers, which is a native. So it just works great. But I put it in a more informal zigzag pattern or zipper pattern. And it's filled in now. I can't see my neighbors. They can't see me. We're both happier. People walking up and down the street. I love reading the paper in the morning. In like April, out in the front yard, in my pajamas. I don't want to talk to neighbors. I'll say hi, but I don't want to talk to you. I just want to sit there and have my own meditation time. I didn't close it down the driveway. That's fine. So it's just kind of my way of creating design. Up and down that hillside. Mistake I see people will plant in an exact row. You go, oh, look, what they do, stripe the yard, stripe this hillside. They're trying to erosion control. It's a big stark bank. And if you're to zigzag it, it'll look more natural. It'll fill in more naturally. It's just a quick design technique. Okay. Every yard should have one of these. So I brought it. It's an evergreen. Californians call this heavenly bamboo. Everywhere else in the country, we call this nandina. And so it's an evergreen plant. Animals don't eat this. Javelina, deer, bad rats, nothing eats this. I don't know why. It looks delicious. I want some ranch dressing and try it, but it's got a sap in it that they don't like taste. And so there are certain plants you can do that with. There's different sizes as far as how large it gets. The domestica, the big one, gets really big. Most of we're doing the Sienna Sunrise. Some of the less maintenance ones get about hip high. There's some that get knee high, they'll stream, and some get really low. Perfect board. What height do you want? We've got it. Okay, so they're the varieties that grow here. I bring this one. This is agave or artichoke agave. I bring this because agaves are famous in Arizona. There's a lot of varieties that don't grow up here. They grow in Phoenix, they don't grow up here. So be really careful which varieties of sedums, agaves, and yuccas that you grow. Or know the variety, know the place where you're buying it from. Water's Garden Center. We're only going to have the plants that grow up. But this big blue agave grows down kind of Black Canyon City and lower. It does not grow up here. I have tried and tried not get it to grow. There's not a variety that's going to die. Don't waste your energy. It'll die in the winter. This is perii or artichoke agave. Another name for this is century plant. The myth is once every 100 years it blooms. has a great big white flower that goes straight into the moon, like 15 feet. What I find is that's a myth. Out in the wild, maybe every 100 years, in your backyard, about every 10 years, it'll blow. So they grow faster because you're caring for it. So, and it is beautiful and it blows. When it blows, the mother plant dies. And the pups will be underneath, because you frequently have little tiny infants underneath it, they will start growing. The way it naturally works, in nature, it puts on that big flower, then it falls over, and then it sets a seed over there. The pups stay alive over here. So it's naturally, that's how it's thinking. Oh, I'm gonna crawl up the hill by falling over. You're probably not gonna let that happen in your yard. After a year, you're gonna cut it down to that. It looks dead. Cut it back. So that's the reason I brought that one. Camellias, I brought this because this is a winter. People don't believe we can grow rhododendrons, azaleas, camellias. We can. They just have to be in the shade. We don't like our sun. And these are generally acidic kind of plants. They don't like our alkaline water and alkaline soil. So you might have to plant it in potting soil. You might have to add more fertilizer. Our fertilizer is cottonseed meal. Cottonseed meal is very acidic. And so if you're fertilizing with our water's food, it's going to lower the pH every time it'll make pollen. So, but you can grow those. They're good. They're zone 4, I think. Rhodio's grow in Minnesota. It's not the cold, it's the alkalinity you need to compensate in the sun for that particular plant. Okay, hold on. Yeah, what?
So the question, when do you plant? You recommend planting roses?
Roses are planted in March. Actually, I'll have some show up here in a couple of weeks. I'll have the newest varieties. So the way the roses grow here, we grow roses better and herbs better than anywhere else in the country. Because we're so bright, we're so dry. So we don't get the diseases that a lot of people get in other parts of the country. And so I'll have 2 main deliveries of roses. One will be all the newest varieties you're hearing about right now. They come in right after Valentine's. I think they're scheduled for the 15th, literally, and they'll be dormant. They're rooted, but they're actually they're not leafed out. The last week in April, that's when we're most famous. We'll have 1,000 roses show up all at once. They will all be in bloom, and that's when I sell most of the roses. So we've scheduled the grow to come in all at once. We're trying to get past that frost. And right before Mother's Day, that's like a sweet spot for roses. So what do I get off? There you go. Pretty rose. This is you East Coast folks, euonymus. Very famous plant. It grows exceptionally well here. Loves our sun, takes our alkalinity, loves growing in heavy soils. It's really good. It doesn't like deer. Deer like the taste of this. That's the main one. So if you're out there in the yard where deer are, probably not this one, there's better ones. But it also comes like this. This is also euonymus. This is a ground cover. This is long, this is as tall as it gets. So it gets as wide as from knee to yoke. This one is a hedge, grows 6 feet tall, head high, kind of ball shaped. They're related because kind of see the same foliage. They vary its color. This one is its winter color. It looks like this in the summer, in the growing season. In the winter, it turns to this. And I brought this just so you can see plants do have this ebb and flow of color. It might be evergreen, but it might change color even though it's an evergreen. For me, I plant this one. I plant this one, it's called Elaeagnus because it's a native. I don't put it on my irrigation, I water it by hand, but it sort of looks like this. Has the same kind of form, head high, ball shaped, edged, gets a real fragrant flower to it. But animals don't bother this. Super drought hardy, this can get some mildew, this gets no bugs or disease because it's one of us, it's Arizona. It's found here. So Elaeagnus or silverberry is another name. Another native. This thing is in the way. Another native. We're getting close. I know you're getting antsy. 2 other natives. 3 other natives. Actually, 4 other natives. This is gray leaf cotoneaster. This is growing wild when you're walking the forest. This grows about hip high or so. Nice ball shaped. It's evergreen or mostly evergreen, so in a little bit of brown, it always has some foliage on it. White flowers in spring, red berries, and animals don't bother us. Super, super hardy. So if you need more gray and blue in your yard, this is a great one. This is Apache Plume. This grows wild as well. And I brought this because it had a plume, sort of a plume on it. Has a white flower. It's about this big. Has white flowers and this plumes on it. True native. Again, I would not put this on my irrigation. I'd probably plant it, water my hands. Once a week is plenty. If you're gonna kill this, it'll be from overwatering. It's truly, truly a native plant. It can't get kind of wild. It's kind of, if you don't want wild in your yard, it's not your plant. But if you just want something to kind of fill out, kind of grow and range out there, it's a great one. I've got a few of these in my yard. Just because it blooms a lot of birds in it. This is the one I killed 5 times in my yard. Manzanita. So we grow 4 varieties. We figured out how to grow manzanita. It's got the classic red bark. It's got, I brought it this spring. It's one of the first things to bloom. You're seeing white bell-shaped flowers there. So this will be in bloom by the end of February. Another 2 weeks, actually, it might be in bloom the next warm cycle we get. So it's very early bloom. That's what the bees, the birds will be using as food when it first comes up. Okay. Do not put this on irrigation. It's gonna drown. So just kind of plant it, treat it like a cactus or something. That's how tough it is.
Second.
This is one, I use a lot of this. This is Oregon grape or Mahonia. It's the other name. It comes in this size, and this size, 3 different sizes. It is evergreen. This is one, if it's out in the sun, this has been outside, just in full sun. It gets this reddish tinge to it. If it's in more shade, it'll stay green, like a holly. So Oregon grape holly has got holly leaf. But it's starting to bloom. Again, it blooms about the same time that manzanita blooms. And so they'll be in harmony as far as their bloom cycles. It's beautiful. It'll be covered in yellow flowers. And then you can eat grapes, mix jellies and jams. Quite honestly, you'll never get any because the birds just love the little berries. So I put them in my backyard, quite a few of them, mainly for the birds. Just, I don't want to harvest them. I don't want to work that hard. I'll go to the farmer's market, buy it there. I don't want to work that hard here. But it's a pretty plant. I use the low growing one underneath my juniper. I've got a very majestic, I mean, this is a glorious, hundreds of years old juniper. Unfortunately, it's a big old male, so it's loading up with pollen right now. You have allergies, you're in the wrong place. As these big junipers, the males are the problem. They are the ones that have all the pollen. The females do have no pollen, they just have berries. So the males, will be one male on the hillside, he'll try to pollinate every female on that mountain range. He does it with tons, I mean, pounds and pounds and pounds of pollen. Well, that's what I have in my backyard. Well, junipers are also famous for shedding a lot of foliage. So they're always trying to drown out, it's a competitive thing. They're always trying to shed needles to basically bury anything underneath them so nothing can grow. They also taint it with some poisons, some turpentines, and some all kinds of crazy stuff. Creosotes, keep anything from growing underneath it. So it's very difficult to grow underneath the juniper. These do exceptionally well. So I pruned it up. I've got art underneath it. I've uplit this tree, downlit the tree. It's beautiful. When you look at it and go, whoa, that's a garden. And I couldn't grow anything down there. But this I was able to grow. It's Oregon grape. This is where it naturally, you'll see a plant like this when you heck the Bradshaws. It's Oregon grape, it's a native. And that's where it's growing naturally underneath the oaks and the junipers. So with that, we've gone way too long. I've got, I keep going and going. Again, every week we do this. Hopefully for about an hour, not an hour and a half. You've been very patient and engaging. That's the only reason I've gone longer. All the soils are $2 off. Today, like you folks, we put that in for you too. Just mention you were tuning into the class. If you're, pass those back. This is the time to plant or to get new soils ready. It's manure, topsoils, potting soils, whatever you want, all the bad goods, $2 off. It's basically our contractor price. Take advantage of it. Just kind of I know I'm dealing with gardeners, I know you're not ready, there's snow on the ground, just get it and put it on top of the snow, it'll be fine. Get the supplies while you can. I will hang out as long as you want. I know you got more questions, I'll look at the plants, I'll just be here as long as you all want. Thanks for coming, I'll let you clap before you go.
One question on the line.
Only because they're my gosh.
TT wants to know about starting seeds. When's the best time to
Yeah,
plant seeds,
good question.
specifically hollyhock?
Oh, hollyhocks, yeah, a bit early for hollyhocks, I'd probably wait till April, put them in the ground. Same with sweet peas and that kind of stuff, into March. Whenever you feel like it's warm, you start to see, whenever you see the daffodils grow, they're in bloom, start that. That's a good way, that's a good marker for you. And I'm starting to do my pruning now, I'm seeing like the mums already got green, you can cut back that dead growth. You're seeing, things are wanting to go, my peonies, they've got eyes on them. They're not growing, they're just teasing us, but I'm going to grow as soon as I'm ready. But you can see where the flower buds are gonna come up, so it's kind of, there's some indication if you're looking, your fruit trees and your shade trees, you're seeing the leaf buds and flower buds really start to swell. So the plants, they want spring, they want, as much as you and I want it, they want spring too. So thanks for coming, you all, appreciate it.
Is this covered for?
Not fertilizer, just all materials, all.